actually like I enjoy watching like the videos of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. Like I enjoyed it.
You put me on to those.
Yeah,
they were
you did.
Good.
Yeah. I'm always
really
like, yeah, sending them more power. Like, so if this is my version of that, so
right. So be
Can you block out names? Like, can you like burp when I like?
Yeah. I was thinking that
Nobody gonna hit my phone. Well, it's all right. Like I said, I assert myself, so it's all right.
Right.
When I meet other people, I always just assume like we had to do a thing. I just assume that like I don't know, people weren't that deep into it as us. So it's always interesting to hear other people like share.
Yeah. So my first thought is just when did the experience of being a Jehovah's Witness start for you?
I had a feeling that was going to be one of your questions.
Because for me, it was since birth, like, and it honestly doesn't feel that way. But my mother, she had always told me she was pregnant with my brother. And at that time, she was like home and isolated and lonely. And so Jehovah's Witness came to her door and, you know, started preaching to her. And like, that was her outlet, you know, and she felt like connected. She felt like she had community. And she had always told me that when she got baptized, like she was pregnant with me when she got baptized, which is like, to even think about.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been in it.
I think for me, so my mom has been in it, I feel like since I was born too, but I do remember when my mom got baptized. Like I was a toddler, but I just remember flashes of it. So I probably was like, I was probably like 3, but I remember like flash, like me being sat in somebody's lap for her to go get dipped in the water and stuff. But her mom was a Jehovah's Witness. So she'd always like studied and stuff, but she just didn't get baptized until like after I was born. And yeah, I guess I know it was before the 90s. So, and I was born in 87. So yeah, I probably was about 2 years old when she got baptized.
I would say for me, so I would visit the Kingdom Hall with Brittany and her family. I don't know when that started. I was aware of it, you know, like in elementary school. And then it was somewhere around, I want to say maybe 5th or 6th grade, where my dad started going to the meetings again. This elder visited our house and convinced him to go to the meetings. And then so we started going as a family. And then it was maybe a year or 2 after that my dad got baptized. And so it became like our lifestyle for real. So that was definitely around 7th grade. Right before high school. Yeah, right before high school.
So how did you feel about that? Like, because that's kind of later in life, you know?
At the time, it was fine because like most of my cousins were already Jehovah's Witnesses. So I had already felt kind of like an outsider because our family wasn't. So it kind of just, I didn't have any problems with it at that time. I was like really curious about it actually, and like was getting serious about it and like, you know, doing my studies and doing my watchtowers and taking it seriously. Like all that. I was doing that for some years. Yeah.
Wow.
So I was all in for some years.
That's so interesting. Because, you know, even though I was like born into the faith, I don't think I can honestly say I ever took it very seriously. And that was
that's real.
And I don't like, because I was thinking about that as well. Like, how did that even come to pass? My father was never Jehovah's Witness. He was Catholic. He was raised Catholic, but like outside of that, like I'm sure like he saw witch doctors and stuff like that when he was young. And he has like the scars and everything from it still. So that wasn't even Catholicism isn't something he grew up in. And so like he was just never a part of it. But I think for myself, I remember at a very young age, just like something just told me, it was like these people aren't right. Like what they're saying is not true. And I think it had a lot to do with that message about like fearing God, like being fearful, and I was just like,
that just didn't resonate. Like, fear him, like, that is
it went
real,
back
like,
and forth
because it taught you to love him at one point and then fear him, and it's like,
which one do I do?
which one?
Which one you want me to do? Yeah,
because they even tell you can't. Go ahead.
Oh.
I was going to say that they even tell you that you can't slave for two masters, and that's doing that, like fear and loving the same thing. Like that's mixed signals.
It's very confusing. And then for me, I did feel confused because it's like I would be back and forth. So I had a few years when I took it serious, but I was thinking about this yesterday, actually. I think that the only reason why I did take it serious was always because I just had this thing about me where I wanted to be like, I don't know, like accepted, like looked at like I was doing the right thing by my parent, by my mom, and then all of her siblings were basically Jehovah's Witnesses. So when I went around my aunts, I wanted to be like, she's not doing anything wrong, she's doing the right thing. So nobody would say anything to me. So I felt like that's really the only reason why I took it serious. But I ended up being like an unbaptized publisher, going in field service. But I used to have this like, then it would be certain times when it just was like, what is this really? And then I would ask my mom questions. I always asked her questions since very young. And it seemed like the same questions I asked her then, when I would ask her later, like when I was 18, 19, they would be the same answers and it still just didn't make sense. So then I was just like, it didn't take that long for me to not take it serious. I think I stopped taking it serious, like, but it was just like, I remember not taking it serious or taking it serious, but then not taking it serious. Maybe by like middle school or maybe early high school. And then I tried to again, like, let me just check again and see if this makes sense. Tried to have a study. And when I had to study, I had to study with a whole different lady, like just to see if like, maybe it was just my mom, like my resentment towards my mom. And I would ask her the same things. Like we would study and I would ask her questions and it would just be like, well, let's turn to the scripture. And like, I would still be so like, okay, but you didn't answer my question. So I was just, so it just didn't make sense. But it's a real thing that it didn't resonate with me fully, because I guess if it did, I would have, it wouldn't have been like back and forth with it. I think elementary school I didn't mind studying, but after that, it was just like an annoying, tedious thing. Like I hated doing, like I hated field service. I didn't really enjoy it.
Can you explain what the unbaptized publisher, what does that mean? Because I don't even remember.
So what was that? So that's when I guess it's like the step before being baptized, right? I think it's when like you're in training kind of to be baptized. So you go out in field service, you're able to like preach to other people and you're able to do like take part in the meetings that they have every week. So, like when people give talks and stuff like that, you remember going to the Kingdom Hall and it would be like it was like a skit type of thing. Yeah.
I love doing
like
those.
that. Like I was able to give them.
You would.
I did.
Because when I was starting to not like it, Byrd was actually into it. And maybe that's what made me like, okay, let me try to be into it a little bit because maybe she's into it. But that's when it was still new. I guess it was still fresh for you.
Yeah.
But I did not like doing. In the beginning, I did. I wanted to be a part of it. And then once we started doing it, it just didn't feel like anything. It never felt like anything to me. It never pulled anything out of me. I would just like prepare, do the talk, and then it would just be a thing. But that's basically all it is. And you can, I think those are the two things. Like you go out in field service and then you can like give talks and stuff at the Kingdom Hall.
Did you used to report your time when you went in field service?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you can report time too.
Yeah, that's the difference, because I did all of that, except that I wasn't an unbaptized publisher ever. So I never reported my time,
Yeah.
but
So
I still went into field
report.
service. I would go with my dad. I would have to like be with another person And then
Yeah.
I love giving talks, so I did that part too. I was going to add, I think we can both agree on this. Like a certain person's acceptance we wanted, like, was high, like, because he was just like our cool older cousin.
He was.
And so
And
he made being a Jehovah's Witness cool. Like when we would go visit him and his family in Newport News, like him and his friends seemed fun. We were like,
they were
we
fun.
wish we had, because the people in our congregation were kind of like lame, so we couldn't connect with them for real.
What congregation
we
did
couldn't
you
really
go
do
to?
anything fun.
We were in.
I was too.
See this? They gonna know we talking about them.
I mean, I was
had
there
like
for
one
a
or
minute.
two people that were cool. You were there
for a minute. I wonder if we ever like crossed paths. Like
we probably did.
I was there for a minute. Like,
we probably did. That's so cool.
Wow.
I can't even say what year. I was probably
because we were going for like the whole
time.
3 when I started it, then I was there the whole time. We never moved anywhere. We never went. Like my mom is still.
Our parents are still there. Yeah, my dad is still there. That's
so they were. We were probably there.
Yeah.
Wow, and look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's the thing. And all of our cousins were Jehovah's Witnesses, so we kind of had like this, like, we hung out with our cousins that were fun. And then our older cousin in Newport News, we would go hang out with him and his friends that were all Jehovah's Witnesses, but they were all like really cool, like fun. And so that was probably like what made it like, okay, it's not that bad. Maybe. And then
we tried.
Yeah. It's just like as we got older, it got more strange.
Yeah, I never had that experience of like having like people that I like really looked up to in the faith. And then like there was people who were older than me, and what I realized was that they would be in a hall and say one thing, and then they would come out and like live a completely different life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, what is, like it didn't make any sense to me. And I just kind of, even at an early age, that was the vibe that I got. It was like people here are afraid. Like I could feel that. I was like, they used to be like, there's so much love and everything, but I was like, this feels like fear, like, and so that never really resonated with me, because it felt like people were lying to each other. And I don't know, did you experience that at all with like your cousins or anything?
We definitely saw people live double lives. For me, I think one of the first things though was seeing like my aunts and uncles, like, hearing one thing of like Jehovah like accepts all people and it's all about love, but I will always hear them say negative things about people, even other people in the Kingdom Hall, and like not accept people and just be kind of mean, like say mean things. And I would be like inside I would say like, well, if they're supposed to be like loving people, why are they talking about this person that way, or why are they doing? So I would feel like I was more so observant of them than like, I don't know, maybe the people in the hall, like the younger people who were living double lives. Like at that point, it was just like, this is just what you do, because the religion is so strict. Like you kind of have to if you want to live any type of life. But for me, it was like the people who really, like the adults, like the parents who were like not very loving when it came to other things. Like, and then I remember hearing my mom tell somebody one time, like, this guy was explaining like his belief in his, I don't know what religion he was, but he was explaining something about it. And my mom was just like, that's wrong. Like, that's wrong. And I remember I wasn't that old, but I knew that it was not right to tell somebody that was wrong. Cause I'm like, well, how do you really know that it's wrong? You know what I mean? Like that's his belief. You have yours. So it would just be stuff like that.
For me, I will witness and observe that too. I will also hang out with one of my older cousins. She was baptized, and she was definitely living a double life. And I would, be with her sometimes, and so it just like, it seemed like the only way to do it, to be a Jehovah's Witness, would be to live a double life. And I wasn't about to sign up for that. So that's why I never like took the steps, because I was in high school like by that time, and I wanted to do, stuff. I just wanted to explore being
Not
an
about to be
adolescent.
stressed.
Yeah, and I didn't want to, but however, I did live a double life because I had two of my closest friends were both baptized. And so I didn't tell them a lot of like the things I was doing, which didn't feel good. And then eventually when I did, yeah, it was a lot lighter, but I was still living my other life.
Yeah, that was the thing that I've been thinking about a lot too, is just the shame around the like,
oh my goodness,
just so many behaviors, and just in general, like I always felt so
Yeah.
ashamed of myself. Like even like now, sometimes I'll still feel it. It's heavy, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
For living life.
for the way you dress, like make sure that you're covered up in certain ways, and sometimes you just like you're living your life and they're like put it your shoulders, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah, your skirt is too short. We had a sister like that in our congregation. She didn't even want men, like young women and men, to give each other hugs. Like that was inappropriate to her. We couldn't even show each other love in that type of way. And I was just like, what?
Oh my God.
Very, very weird.
Yeah, I remember feeling like ashamed, like I guess of myself being in the space with other Jehovah's Witnesses, but then also feeling ashamed when I would go to school because I felt like so othered. Like I never wore it proudly because it never felt like something that was mine, but it was also something that I've been brought up in. So I just remember feeling a lot of shame around that in school, like just not being able to participate in certain activities that other kids were, and not really understanding why I had to be so separate from everybody else. I don't know if y'all had that experience.
Yeah, I did. I remember not wanting people to know, but then it would stand out so much because from kindergarten, I remember it would be like, you can't say the Pledge of Allegiance, which I'm like, I'm glad I didn't say the Pledge of Allegiance. But
right.
But at the time, it was just like, you can't do it because you're a Jehovah's Witness. But it was one other Asian kid that he was Jehovah's Witness, and throughout elementary, we were in the same classroom a lot. So I would always be like, okay, well, it's both of us that can't do it. So we will always have to sit to the side or do stuff like when it was Pledge of Allegiance time or like holiday stuff that we couldn't do. Mm-hmm. We will always be like the two. But yeah, I felt like I never wanted people to ask me, why aren't you doing it? Like I really hated it. I never was proud to say I'm a Jehovah's Witness. Even when I was doing, I guess like studying, like being an unbaptized publisher and stuff, I never talked to anybody in my school about it. Like I would never go to school and be like, no, I never did. It would just be like for people I'm knocking on their doors. And then at some point I started not liking it when we started going into neighborhoods that
people you
had
knew.
like students that went to my school. Yeah. I would be like, please don't be like. So yeah, I was never like proud of it in that way. Did I talk to people I knew about it? Not that I remember. Anyway.
Byrd was loud and proud.
Like I did have a period of that tree. How did you know? My face said it.
It's the Capricorn.
Okay, you already know.
You had to go hard.
Like I didn't mind being singled out. I actually liked it. So when we started being Jehovah's Witnesses for real, and I didn't do the Pledge of Allegiance, I was like proud of that. I was proud to sit down and see everybody stand up. I didn't know what I know now, but I'm thankful. Like Brittany was saying, like,
want people to see.
But I remember in my civics class, we were given this assignment to write on who we would vote for president. And I said, God. I wrote this whole thing about how my vote is for God. This is God's kingdom and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, even still. So, but then I had pettiness because I was also in chorus, and like, there was this one field trip we had where we were going to go sing Christmas carols at Walmart, and we were going to eat McDonald's for lunch. So I went.
I'm not missing McDonald's.
I didn't tell my dad. So petty.
You went to sing
but
Christmas carols.
I did. I can't really remember how I was in high school though. Like people knew I was Jehovah's Witness, and I said, I had best friends, Rachel and Sierra. Was Rachel left in high school at some point, but Sierra was there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I didn't really mind people knowing. Yeah, I didn't mind it. I was still doing things though, so it's not like I was, you know,
Yeah, that's
like
the
I
thing,
wasn't
too.
witnessing to
I was still
anybody.
doing
Well, I
things.
wasn't like witnessing to anybody in school, but I was still going to field service, and I would like see people from my school occasionally when I was in field service, and it was what it was.
Like, hey.
Right? Like,
I'm here.
yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I prefer people not. I guess I just felt like I was missing out on so much. And then also, I think it depends on your parents. Like my mom was so strict about everything. So I think that was a part of my, like when I stopped not liking it, it was more because of her strictness. And I just felt like it was just, and then I don't know if you remember, Byrd, but the multiplex is like this movie theater on Richmond Highway.
I used
Every
to go
Friday
there.
it would be packed.
Oh.
You used to go there?
Yo,
It
I
would
lived
be
in
packed of people.
Where did you live?
Where'd
Chief?
you live?
I lived in Jana Lee. Do y'all know Jana Lee?
That's right next to Brittany.
Stop. I lived in Colchester. Like that's the neighborhood right here, and then
Right.
Jeremy is right here.
And then it was like, was it
We're in the
Sequoia Court
same
right over
hood.
there?
Yep, Sequoia was
Yes.
the term before.
So we
Yo.
definitely had to have seen each other at the
At
Kingdom
some
Hall.
point.
We
some
had
point.
to have seen.
What school
yeah.
did you go to when you were?
I went to Fort Hunt. I was only there for
Okay.
elementary. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
the
so
multiplex used to
interesting.
be lit on Fridays. And I used to always, Fridays was the night we had our meeting. And every time we used to drive, I used to just be like, that could be
Can
me.
you
Like I could
imagine
just be there enjoying my life.
At the multiplex. Can I imagine?
No, can
what?
you imagine us having our meetings every Friday? That was our theocratic ministry school.
Yeah.
Was on Fridays.
That's rough.
After a whole week of school, and then you looking forward to having fun.
It's like, no. And then you have a meeting again on
I used
Sunday,
to hate
right?
it. It used to just remind me, like when we leave the meetings, we would drive past again on Sunday, Tuesday. So when we were going, it was Tuesday, Friday, Saturday field service, Sunday,
Wow.
the Kingdom Hall, and then sometimes field service again after that. But now
Yeah.
they don't even go anymore. They do Zoom. But then when we stopped, they started going like twice a week or something.
Yeah, everything changed once we left. I was upset I couldn't go to any football games or basketball games or just anything on Friday nights because
You would miss it. Yeah. Yeah, I stopped going to the meetings probably like fifth or sixth grade. I just kind of fell back. My mother had separated from my father. And so like that was an issue, right? Because you're not supposed to be separated or get divorced, right? So even though it was an abusive relationship, they still had an issue with her being separated. So after that point, she ended up getting this fellowship, which I'm sure that has touched your family at some point. I'm interested to know y'all experience around being this fellowship. And yeah, would one of y'all like to explain what this fellowship even, like, what does that mean to you?
So this fellowshipping can only happen to someone who's baptized. And it's when they they commit a sin, from my understanding, that they're not exactly like remorseful for. Like they may still have, I don't know, like that's the way I've been told. And so they're not allowed to fellowship with anybody in anybody who is a Jehovah's Witness. They can still attend meetings, but they won't be able to like comment or any of that or speak to anybody there. But it's, yeah, I think it's something like they're not, yeah,
it's
they're
like
not actually like really
modern shunning. It's very strange.
So
and they
was your
can't speak to their
mom
family
the only one
either.
Yeah, if they're Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah,
that's actually the saddest part.
The kids can't do what?
I was going to add that they also, the person can't speak to their family either if they're Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
So it's just,
you're isolated completely.
Yeah, you're isolated.
So like push you, I guess, I don't know, in the right direction. I'm not sure what
And
that's supposed to do.
and I wanted to add that they announce it to the congregation that this person is disfellowshipped and is no longer associated with Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever. They announce it.
Even as an unbaptized publisher, they announced it. I remember the night they announced mine.
That's right.
They announced that like Brittany is no longer unbaptized publisher. And I think a cousin was visiting or something, and she was like, why? Like asking me why. And I just wanted the whole thing to be over. Like, let's just skip this meeting and go back to normal. But it is, and it's kind of embarrassing. Well, it's like you just don't want to talk about it. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
It's like the ultimate shaming, because the whole community comes around to like shame you, and
it's not like, yeah, they're not coming to you in a like a loving way. Like, you need, like, do you need any type of support, emotional support? It's just like I know when I've seen people get disfellowship, and other witnesses like crying and hugging them and telling them like, I'll be here when you come back. And it's like, they're not going anywhere. They're gonna be here. Who knows what's going on in their life? Yeah. But was your mom the only one in your family that was baptized? Like, did she have to go through not talking to family because they were baptized?
So my mother was a Jehovah's Witness. One of my aunts was a Jehovah's Witness, and then her daughter, my cousin, was a Jehovah's Witness also. And so that was it. And so my mom was disfellowshipped, I think maybe 2 times. And I can't really, she didn't have a close relationship with my aunt that much at that time. So I don't remember her feeling isolated from that. But it was a challenging experience because we had, like, she separated from my father. We like left where we were and we moved into the hood, right? And so we're in this space where we don't really know a lot of people. And then you're also being like shunned from like the quote unquote spiritual community. So it just, I remember like that really tainted my experience as a kid, because you have to sit in the back. You can't even like sit in the hall. I don't know if y'all remember, but it was like a room in the back. And I don't
glass windows. Glass
with like a prison window or something, and you had to sit back there, you know. And so not only were people not talking to my mother, they're also not really talking to us as children, asking how we're doing, if we're okay. And it was just a really challenging time. So that was part of my experience with it. I remember part of the reason why I never really resonated with Jehovah's Witnesses, because I remember at like probably I was around maybe 4 or 5 years old, I had seen a girl get this fellowship. I think she was like 16, 17. She got pregnant, and she was at the hall, and, you know, they announced that she was being disfellowshipped, and like you could see clearly that she's pregnant. I don't know who she was in a relationship with, but I remember we were outside after the meeting, like in the parking lot, and the girl tried to run in front of a car. Like, she tried to like charge in front of a car and kill herself. Yes. And I remember seeing this as a kid, like somebody like grabbed her. And I remember seeing this as a kid, and I was just like, this is not the way to deal with people, to like ignore people and treat them.
Oh my gosh.
Like, she literally tried to commit suicide in front of everyone. Yeah. And that was one of my first memories. And I was just like, this is not where I need to be, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
My dad, when I was in high school, he was put on reproof, which is the alternative to disfellowship. That's when you like are sorry and you ask for forgiveness and all that. And so they announced that too. And he lost his privileges as well. Like, he couldn't, I think could he still talk to everybody? He couldn't comment at the meetings and things like that. He couldn't go on field service. Can. But I think he could still talk to everybody.
I think you can still talk to people because they want them to like
people.
Pull you back in.
He can still talk to everyone. He just couldn't comment at the Kingdom Halls to go on field service for, I don't even remember how long it was. But yeah, I forgot about that actually. And we have had was this fellowship. That was her way back into getting a Jehovah's Witness. So she had left for I don't know how long, but she wanted to get back, and so she had to be disfellowship first, because she had, you know, I guess left and was had dated Uncle Terry, and so she had to go through a disfellowship process.
I
But we
so-
still, but it's interesting because if you're not technically disfellowship, then you could still commune with your family and do stuff, right? I don't think all
Yeah.
the family was like going by and Claire, but it's not like they wouldn't talk to her, like they would go. So like another aunt of ours the same way, and she wouldn't be disfellowship, but she would just like stop going for months and we would still like do stuff. But then if you have that title, then it's like you can't talk to anybody. But I remember that's why, yeah, I remember saying like, well, I'm just not gonna get baptized, because at least if I do something wrong, I'm not gonna have that problem of not being able to talk to my family, because I'm never gonna be like this fellowship. I'll just like not really be a part of it. But I remember being at a family party. It was my cousin's aunt on her mom's side. And I remember she actually hosted at her house, but it was like a graduation party or something, but like nobody would talk to her. So she was just like, I just thought it was the weirdest thing. Like she was just like there eating the food. Everybody's talking, but she was just like quiet and like on her own because nobody could really talk to her. And I remember as a child, like, yeah, it was always strange to me. It was always just like a really strange thing.
It's strange and it's surprising how painful that is, you know? Like you wouldn't.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
But
From
you
a congregation that's like
as
supposed to be
right?
so loving in your family. But they don't do that. So for unbaptized publishers, you can still talk to people, like, because you're not baptized.
Okay.
But I think I was unbaptized publisher. Like I was taken off because I told them like, no, I wasn't remorseful for what I did. I think it was around the time, I don't know if I had lost my virginity and had sex, or if it was before that. And I just it probably was when I had sex. And my mom made me go tell the brothers.
Oh my
and they were like, they asked me like, are you sorry or something, like, would you do it again? And now at that point I did not want to be like I really didn't even want to go to the Kingdom Hall anymore. And I kept I had been telling my mom for months, like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore, like I don't like it. And she was just like, like, if you live in my house you have to go. So when she made me talk to them and they asked me that, I was like, I'm not sorry, and yes, I would do it again. Like, yes, I would do it again. I was very honest. And so they were like, well, that means you can't be unbaptized publisher anymore. But you could still talk to your family. People in the Kingdom Hall could still talk to you. It's not the same as when you're baptized. So it was like the same. I just couldn't go but I couldn't go in field service anymore, and I couldn't give talks anymore. And I think I don't know if I could comment, like give comments. I don't remember. But I know that without all the privileges that were taken away, I was actually like really relieved and happy that I didn't have to do it again, because that's what I had been asking my mom.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, how did that shape your experience of like sexuality and sex to have to like talk about that to,
Yeah, it was strange. I remember feeling really like, it felt like I felt like they didn't really care to know, like, they didn't ask anything about like my feelings about anything. It was just like more about the experience. I felt like, I guess about like the things that I did, like, where did you meet this guy? Or like, is he, I feel like they were asking like, does he believe in Jehovah? Would he come? Have you talked to him about Jehovah type of stuff? And I just feel like it was just missing the whole point. Like nobody was talking about anything that really mattered. Like when they were asking me, I felt like it was an invasion of my privacy, and they weren't respecting me as like I guess I was about 16. I don't know. I feel like I was young, but I was about 16. And I also was really upset with my mom because I felt like she put me through that. Like, you could have just talked to me about this before. Like, you could have talked to me about sex. You could have told me so many things about it, but you decided to just get angry and come make me talk to these men that are not even, I don't even think I talked to my dad about it.
Mm-hmm. And in that process,
strange men
there's no women present in that process, right?
No, just my mom, and then these like 2 or 3 elders that were in the room. So no, it felt really creepy. I almost like didn't want to answer their questions because I just felt like it's like too much for y'all to be asking me. But then at the same time, like we're in this room, so it's not like I could just get up and walk out. It was like I just felt really like trapped in. And I don't remember really feeling like ashamed of having sex. It almost made me just more angry. Like I want to do more of what I want to do. Like I'm gonna keep talking to this guy if I want to, and have sex again if I want to, type of thing. I was that type of person. I wasn't ever really like, I don't want to do it again. But it did kind of make me think more, I guess it made me have a little feelings about like, you know, having sex and like what does it really mean? And does it really mean that I'm not respecting my body, stuff like that, but not too deep where I like didn't want to do it. It was more just knowing that I didn't want to be a part of that religion, the way it was handled.
It's super violating.
Yeah. Very. Yeah.
Just take a breath, because shit is
I know.
heavy.
It is.
It doesn't make sense that they don't have like a council of women set up or something, you know, like
Right.
within their whole structure. Like everything is just men.
I
men,
remember
men, men,
that
men.
book. Wasn't there a book that we had, the Young People Act book maybe,
Mhm.
Yes.
that had a whole
Question-
part about sex,
Answers that work.
but it was
Mhm.
all, maybe it was, it was all stuff about all the bad things, peer pressure, sex, masturbation, like all these things. And it was just like all the worst things, like them just make you feel so horrible about yourself. So I remember my mom telling me like, go read some of these things in this book. And I was like, wow, they have a whole book of like saying really nothing. But like now being in this space of knowing like all this power in like sensuality, sexual, like your sexual energy and all this stuff. And like they absolutely don't tell you any part of it. Like they make you feel so gross for
Just
exploring
disconnected from-
yourself.
yeah.
Just yeah.
I was confused. I was like, how does anybody get together? Because the book was basically like, don't masturbate, don't have sex. If you're dating, you can only go on group dates. So I was like, how do these people get married? Like I was so confused.
Yeah.
And now looking
For
back,
us, we saw a lot of young people get married. In our congregation, a lot of young people get married, and a lot of them fall apart like soon,
whoa.
like not long after, or get disfellowshipped.
Something.
After they're
Yeah.
married?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, I guess you probably
Because they didn't have a chance to explore or live their life.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
They didn't have a
just,
chance to explore
like,
each other,
started
really.
dating, and then it just was like, well, this is the only person. Like they didn't explore. Yeah.
Because it's not that really many. Well, there. So
they
it's not like they
just-
have a dating site for Jehovah's Witnesses, you know. So you only know who you know. If you go to a convention, you'll meet a little bit more people. If you know somebody who knows somebody and they tell you, then you know other people. But you're kind of limited. And so they just get married quick, and they don't really have the time to really explore each other or themselves. Like, you know, so these relationships be based on, I think, a lot like them wanting to have sex. And I think that's real too. Like they, you know, they think the person's attractive maybe, and they're like, all right, you know, they love Jehovah, I love Jehovah, it'll work. And it's like, there's a lot more to it than, yeah. So I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing relationships fall apart, but yeah, what were you gonna say, Byrd?
Yeah, I saw it at a younger level and an older level. I'm thinking of Brother Evelyn, who cheated on his wife with another sister in the same congregation.
That one was, and they were older, like grown people, like in their
like
40s,
60s,
50s. They weren't in their 60s. Maybe that's too old. 50s.
Remember his wife might have been in her 60s.
Older.
Remember, she like his mom. Yeah,
she looked
could be his mom.
The mom.
So like she could be his mom. She was sweet.
Even them, but there were a lot of like a lot of younger couples that I thought were like cool, like they got married. And I remember everybody moved to Maryland when they got married. They moved to Maryland, and they were like the cool people, the cool Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know none of them that's still married to who they got married to.
Are they
of
still Jehovah's
not
Witnesses?
one. I don't even know.
Okay.
I think a lot
Yeah.
of them left for a while, maybe went back. But I know we have a cousin that's young. Well, she got married young, maybe like before 20. And
She was
she
young.
got married, and then yeah, like I don't know if it lasted very long. Then she like ended up having a child with somebody else. And that was the same thing. Like when she got this fellowship and was like pregnant and really needed support from our family. That was one of the biggest things, like me seeing, and it really hurt me because I'm like, what is going on? Like she really needed support from her family, but they were like, well, you have to come back to Jehovah for us to support you, basically. Like, you know what you have to do. And it's like, dang. And it's strange that they would even want somebody to be part of a religion for like, so I would come back. Maybe some people choose to go be part of the religion just because they're like, I know I need support from my family, but it's not real. So why? And like seeing her go through that. And I think it was a few years that she was like on her own kind of, and her mom and her stepdad wouldn't like deal with her because they were like, you know, you have to get back right with Jehovah.
Wow.
Type of thing. And she did for a while. Like I think she did, and then like left again. But that was like the kind of situation in my family. And it was my mom's favorite niece that she like does anything for, and she will always just like cry to me about it. And I'll be like, you can call her. You could literally call and go help her out.
And she would love that.
There's nothing really stopping. Yes. And she was just like, I just wish she would come back to Jehovah. And I was like, wow.
I think
seeing
she
that
just
was
wish
just like,
you would call her. They crazy.
Y'all touch on a good point though, because I think you really don't get to know yourself within that religion, you know, because there is so much that like you're told you can't do or else you'll be cut out. It's difficult to actually get to who you actually are. And so as you begin to try to explore that, you know, you start getting cut off.
Yeah, there's a real spiritual cultivation within it or anything. Like it's just nothing. It's basically memorizing what
it's
Jehovah
really
wants you to do and what he don't want you to do. And come to the means.
I feel like maybe for you, I feel like because you started later, I always felt like you at least had a chance to explore yourself a little bit, not like in that way, like because in high school is the time when you would be like exploring more, but at least like having friendships and like talking about things that's actually you. Like for me, it was just like for such a long time, like forever, I couldn't choose my own friends. Basically, like I could have friends at school, but then like outside of that, we couldn't talk on the phone, we couldn't do anything. So it was just like only Jehovah's Witness people. So even like after I became like got out of it, I felt like I was just starting to see like, okay, who's actually like, who do I actually want to be friends? Like what type of person am I? Like what kind of people would I actually hang out with? And I remember my mom telling me one time, like, your friends are actually really nice. Like, I think she told me like, I'm sorry I didn't let you like hang out with them. Like, and I was like, these are my same, like these are the same type of people. She would almost treat it like if you're just not friends with Jehovah's Witness, you're out doing something that's like the worst thing you could possibly be doing. Meanwhile, the people that she would let me hang out with were the worst. Like the Jehovah's Witnesses were doing the craziest stuff. And so I just felt like there was no space to explore myself or even just like have conversations with friends about normal child stuff. You couldn't like it was just like not allowed at all. So I feel like it took until I moved out to start finding. And that was when I was basically 18 or 19 when I moved out and started, you know, having my own friends and just like seeing what my interests actually were and stuff like that. But yeah. And even then when you do that, you still are so indoctrinated. So still some stuff is like, whoa, like I don't want to go too far with this thing. But yeah. And I think that, you know, that's a important part of your development as a person, is exploring yourself. And yeah, I just feel like the religion gives you no room for that because everything is just like something to shame, or like you don't do that, Jehovah says this, then yeah, you have no space for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never really thought about it that way. Like I had my mom's side of the family, they weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, and I would spend time with my cousins there. So I did have like more like worldly experiences and connections early on and throughout. And my dad would let me maintain at least like one worldly friend. He had to meet them and like get to know them and things like that, but you know, he would allow them to like come over and things like that. But I think I was able to, you know, explore and things like that. But like, because of when it started for us, like right in the middle school, like I didn't really get to explore myself like in the ways that I wanted to, because there were things I wanted to do like in high school, like be a part of different groups and stuff. I had to lie to my dad one year so that I could, what was I was like secretary or something, but I couldn't tell him that I was running for office. Like there was just things I wanted to do in school. And I, you know, I couldn't do that. Like I wanted to be involved and I wanted to go to college, like just things like that. So I wasn't able to explore like certain things I wanted to because it wasn't encouraged at that time. Like they're doing it, Jehovah's Witnesses are doing it now, but at that time it just wasn't encouraged. And so my dad wasn't supporting like my endeavors in that way. And then, you know, not being able to explore myself sexually or feeling like it's wrong, you know, to do so and to like boys and to want to, you know, explore that. Like just always, there was so much shame around it, like so much shame around it, which kind of also made it exciting at times. But, you know, looking back at it, that is something that we've had to process is like, or I've had to process my shame around sex and like my desires for it, my curiosity in it, my body, like, because
that's one thing I realized too, is that part of that experience, it taught me to really disassociate. Like it was so painful sometimes to be in the hall with like people ignoring you or whatever was going on in my like at home life, right? So I just kind of disassociated all the time. Like I was just not in my body. And so you carry that experience to sexual relationships, to like relationships with your friends and things like that. And so it's definitely supported in creating like an unhealthy dynamic for me and my body. And where now I'm like, all right, let's be present, let's be like inside, you know. But yeah, it definitely supported in disassociation, just like, you know, like this is so painful, I cannot be here.
This one guy that actually was in our cousin Hodges congregation in Newport News, he's no longer a Jehovah's Witness now, which I think is so cool. Anyway, he told me that he felt like him growing up a Jehovah's Witness made him a lame. He was like, it made me a lame. He was like kind of angry about it. He was like, because I could agree. He's cool and he's, you know, he's a little lame. And it's because he didn't get to explore himself. He didn't like,
don't get to explore.
Everything is worldly. Like, or at that time, because things are different now with my, like, at that time, everything was worldly. So you couldn't listen to certain music. You know, I think Brittany's mom had a habit of throwing stuff out, right? Without no questions. That was her thing.
Just threw stuff out.
And then my dad started that a little bit too.
Like you would get something, they would just be like, this is
my Eminem CD, he threw that out.
Demonic or something.
I would have been.
I had a Cisco CD and Cisco had like a dragon or something. And she was like, throw the CD out. Like threw it out. I don't even know if she asked me or she just took it. And it was like, you know, I used to buy my own stuff with my own money. It's not even like I was getting money from her. It used to really upset me.
Yeah. You know what was interesting? Me and my dad had this thing in high school where we would go to like Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, like pretty much every week, and we would go get a different movie because that, you know, we didn't have much we could do. So that was a big form of entertainment. And so it was okay whenever I picked out like a movie with a bunch of like white people in it. But like like, yeah, like he really didn't have any. I mean, I wasn't picking out nothing like rated R or anything like that, but he really didn't have anything to say about it. But if like, yeah, so that's mostly what I was watching. I'm gonna just say that
Movies with a lot of white people.
Because my dad, you know, when I asked him as an adult though. I asked him like why, if it doesn't matter what color Jesus was or whatever, why is he always white? And I don't even know what he said, but they don't realize that like they associate white with goodness. Like you don't even know you're doing that because they still be having the same
that we have
crazy stuff in their movies and sex, you know, like
the same craziness. Every Watchtower, every single publication has white Jesus, and then it had like if there's an image of God, there's this big glowy white man with like hair. Always. I forgot
about that. I'm glad.
White.
I forgot about it.
And it's just like,
but yeah, I remember asking him that, and he like, I remember another question that I would ask my dad growing up, because I had a good friend, Denise, who her and her mother were like heavy in the church. I don't remember what denomination or any of that, but they were heavy in it. And Denise was just like me. We were both silly, sweet, those like girls. And she would come over to my house. I was able to go over to her house too. And I would ask my dad, like, well, she's not a Jehovah's Witness. Is Jehovah going to save her? And he would say yes, because Jehovah saves. No, he wouldn't really give me an answer. He would give me the scripture that Jehovah's going to save some non-believers. And yeah, and I'd be like, is she going to be good or not? Like, this is my dog. Is she going to be
I need to know.
I feel like whenever you asked about somebody specifically, they would try to be like, yes. But if it was anything else, that somebody that wasn't that person, they'll be like, no, because they're not, you know, a believer of Jehovah. I remember I asked my mom once my dad transitioned, and my dad only transitioned 3 years ago, but I remember saying to her, like, well, if y'all are still telling people that they're not going to be saved because they're not baptized Jehovah's Witnesses, why are you saying that dad is going to come back in, you know, in this paradise that you believe that's, you know, going to come? And she was like, she just went all around in this circle. She didn't really say, and she was like, well, that's just what I believe, and I'm not going to stop believing that. And it was just like, but I've heard you tell me for years that people who are not baptized, people who are not believers in Jehovah, like in the truth, are not going to be part of the paradise. And yeah, it's strange. But I feel like every time I've asked somebody specific, like a person I knew personally, they would kind of try to make it like, well, yeah, Jehovah will give them a chance. And then they had this thing where they would say he's going to give them a second chance. Like people were going to get a second chance, which didn't really make sense. Cause like, what's the whole point of this Armageddon that y'all are talking about? If it's going to be like a wipeout, but then not a wipeout, and then people are going to get a second chance to come back. So then there's going to be a second round of this stuff going on. Like,
yeah. So I think you need to explain like how
too much.
Byrd, you want to talk through how the afterlife works for Jehovah's Witnesses?
Okay, my phone is about to die, so I gotta take my earphones off and put the charger on.
Okay.
Y'all can still hear me?
Mine too.
I think I need to change something though. All right. So the afterlife. Okay, so what it is, and Brittany, help me if I like get it wrong. But at some point, does Jesus come back, or is it just the energy of God that's doing all this stuff? That's unclear to me.
Yeah, I don't think they believe in Jesus coming back. I don't think they do like the Jesus. I think it's just the energy of God.
His wrath, his whatever.
Yeah,
is going to come, and he's going to get rid of all the non-believers except some. And all the Jehovah's Witnesses will stay on earth and live here in a paradise, like quality type, you know, earth. And there will be 144,000 who, you know, will go live in reign, will die, and then resurrect and reign with Jesus in heaven
as angels.
And then after, they never say how many years. There's like some symbolism, but after a certain time, or for a certain time, the devil will be able to come back, like, and still mislead certain people.
And that's the second chance thing.
Yeah, this is after Armageddon. This is after the people who have been saved have been saved.
Yeah, okay, I do remember that.
Come back to mislead people again for a certain amount of time, it's always something weird. I don't really, yeah, it's always something weird. And they'll come back for that. And then Satan will be like killed or canceled forever. And then that's when it's
It's
like
just gonna be a
everybody
paradise.
like that's when you're like good.
So it's like 3 more incarnations after
It
this
just
one.
keeps you in fear, like
Yeah.
perpetual fear of like just, you know, am I
Yeah,
gonna do
because
good?
for years they've been saying like these are the last time, like these are the last times, and it's supposed to be like the last times is basically like, you know, Armageddon's come, his wrath is coming to wipe out these people, and it's like, how
Yeah.
long have y'all been saying that these are the last times?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just to keep you in fear and to keep you in it.
Like it really does keep you in fear because everything is a sin.
Everything, yeah.
Everything is a sin. And it's like you're definitely committing one, you know, every couple days, if not every day or something. So yeah, these people are like, I remember myself like just not enjoying life fully
Yeah.
because I couldn't, like the things I wanted to do were bad.
Yeah.
Like all I wanted to do was just be a part of SGA and like be committed and, you know, be that type of
Run for the student body. Yes.
For real, like
Yes.
that's what I was a Capricorn again. That's what I was attracted to, and I wasn't able to explore that. I wasn't supported in going to college, so you know that made me resentful.
What
for
was
some
what
time.
can you talk about that? Because I'm like, I know because my sisters are still a part of that faith, and I know for them, like they haven't wanted to go to college, and I never really could understand what was the, like, why don't they support people going to college?
I don't
we
know.
believe
My
it's
dad
another
likes
thing
to
of being
trick
part
me.
of the world. He what?
Yeah, I think it is. It's
Because most of the people in our hall that went, they only went to like local schools. So they went to like George Mason schools that they could go to and still live at home.
and go and field service and all that.
Yeah, I think they feel like it's still like a worldly thing, and you don't go off looking for like what do they call it? Like you could go, the furthest you would go, or like you go off is to Bethel. You could do that.
Yeah, that was the thing.
But like to go off to college was like you don't like pursue like these secular jobs. What were they? Something like that they called it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like searching for something beyond like what Jehovah really, like you're not really focused on Jehovah if you're focused on college. So if you went, you can go to like a local school where you can just go, come back home, still live your Jehovah's Witness life.
Because I think essentially they're letting you know, like, you're not building anything up in this world because you just get ready to die so that you can resurrect and live in the paradise. Like, you don't need to be building nothing.
And a lot of the people,
Damn.
yeah, they didn't really get like, not that we would care right now about these different jobs and stuff, but for the most part, even if you wanted to, they didn't support like most of the people had like regular jobs and they just lived regular little jobs. They didn't really travel anywhere. Anything that really like calls for like a larger amount of money.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's like to keep your mind small, keep your.
It's just to keep your mind. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
And
that's so.
Yeah, like for my mom, she did that. She talked about college, and then when it came down to it, like when I really wanted to go to college, she was just like, "We don't have money for it," and it was like last minute. Like she had kind of like bugged me up about it. Like we can work on it. And then I was really into it. Like, okay, I'm gonna go. And then she was just like, "We don't have money for that." Like it was almost like, "Who told you that?" And I'm like, I thought we talked about this. It made me so, but that was one of the things I was really resentful for. And it wasn't that I was just like, I just felt like it was something that I at least wanted to explore and like at least help me with the application, like just to see, maybe I would have changed my mind later, but like as a mother, just like help me with it. But yeah, they don't encourage anybody to go. I remember a few that went, and like I said, they went to like George Mason or something. I don't remember if they finished, but they were super just focused on like Jehovah's Witness stuff and like kind of nerdy, like lame people. Like they didn't live lives.
That's why I always tell
So
my sisters,
exciting.
like, if you're interested in religion, maybe study religion, like learn about other religions. Because I never understood how you can preach to someone else.
Blasphemy.
How can you preach to someone else, but you'll never read their, like, the Quran? Like, here, I want you to take my Bible, but I'm not gonna read your Quran. Like, I don't want to know what to do with what you're doing.
That was another thing. Never
Yeah.
understood that.
I wasn't allowed. I would ask my dad also why I wasn't allowed to visit Denise's church, because she would come to me to the Kingdom Hall all the time, and it was just, I don't remember the scripture, but it was a scripture about, like, was it a scripture or something he would show me about not being able to, like, enter another place of worship or something like that. I can't remember specifically, but I was curious about that as well, because I had a curiosity about religions, like, you know, as I got older, like I, you know, just started want to know what other people believed.
Yeah, I don't even think it was until I met y'all that I realized that Jehovah's Witnesses was something that was created in like 1860 or something like that, right? And so, like, I wasn't even aware of, like, that it wasn't ever a thing. Like, it never occurred to me to think, like, when did this thing start, you know? So
they had a different name then too. I don't remember what it was. But even back then, like, I remember hearing that, like, it wasn't until sometime in the 1900s when they stopped allowing them to smoke. Just like different interesting things that they don't really talk about. But
right, because then even when did Black folk get in there?
You said what?
I said, at what point did they start allowing Black folks in? Like, I don't even know. You know,
that's real. They don't. Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't really consider history, like, at all, like world history, their history, religion history.
Yeah, it's very designed to keep you limited, like as limited as possible. Like, don't expand beyond this point. Don't even ask too many questions. As a child, I always thought maybe as you get older, like, you have access to more information, because I was like going to school and I was like, okay, there's different levels, so maybe at some point you get more info. But then I remember I was studying abroad in Australia, and there was like a Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall next to, like, my dorm, and I was like, that's so random that I come all the way here and it's there. So I was like, I went like a few times, and I was asking questions, and like they still didn't have any good answers for me, you know, like it still was very like surface level. It's like, I need something deeper than this, but you know, it could never go any deeper. So
I always wonder, like, what makes people just accept the answers? Because that was the same with me. Like, I took a long break, and then when I did try to study again, I would ask, you know, some of the same questions I was asking when I was in high school, and I was getting the same answers. And I was just like, not okay with it. Like, this doesn't make sense. I knew for a long time, like, I'm not going to, like, have children, like, raise a family in this type of, like, religion. But I always just think, even still now, like, what makes people not consider these things? Because sometimes me and my mom will have a conversation, she'll say stuff, and I'll just ask her a question to make her kind of think about it, and she'll just kind of be like, you know, like, that's just kind of the way it is, type of thing. I'm like, but your brain, like, you don't want to know, or like, I guess it's just it's the fear. Like, it's that much fear that you just really don't want to open your mind to it, because it's scary to feel like, I guess, to know, like, this is not really what I think it is, or something.
Yeah, it's holding your world up. If you start questioning it, your world starts to crumble, you know, and you built your whole life around this thing. You've invested like time, energy, money. Yeah, so I can see how.
And then, like, for our parents, they're like they're at least like third generation. So I always kind of have to go back to that, because they only know, like, their mom raised them in it, and then their grandmother, I guess, was studying, and then it, like, you know, they've just been in it for so long. So I mean, I guess I can kind of imagine, like, being a part of something, but just, I don't know. Even now, like, if something just doesn't make sense, I don't care if I've been practicing it for 15, 20 years. Like,
nope.
It's not going to be right anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to hold y'all too long, but I do want to close with the question, just knowing what are your spiritual practices like now? What's your spirituality like now?
What'd you say?
I'm curious to know, what is your spirituality like now?
So
Being out of the
now,
religion.
out of what?
As a being out of the religion for so many years, like what is
Oh,
your
yeah.
relationship with God, and like what is your spiritual practices now?
We were just talking. The one thing I feel like I just go with, and it's so strange sometimes when I think about how I've become so comfortable. Like, I'm so grateful that I got to this space of like being, I think moving to New Orleans, and I think it's moving to New Orleans so far away from everybody, like my family, like made it comfortable for me to open up to the way I am now. Because now I feel like I really listen to my intuition and allow that to like kind of guide me and what I should be doing. I know I was telling my brother, so I have an altar I set up, and I was telling my brother that I put some food, like I was gonna cook some food for my dad and put it on the altar. And he was like, you have a weird way of doing things or something like that. He told me, but he still is like kind of scared. And he's not a Jehovah's Witness in any way possible, but he like still is very like certain things. Like he still keeps their Bible. And whenever he feels like he's just like off balance, he'll feel like he has to go to the Kingdom Hall. Like he'll go with my mom or whatever. But for me, I came here and just started realizing like there's a whole like really like just living holistically, and like it's not just a religion thing. And I know like even being out in nature taught me so much, like going out on walks and like actually sitting outside and meditating and praying means a lot. And my mom would say, well, I read The Awake and it was talking about the birds. And I'm like, you're just learning facts about like animals, but like where's the connection like with nature for real? Like,
get out there.
And she always like, even to this day, she'll be like, I was reading about how there's so many fish and I don't know, like, I'm like, yes. Also, like, you know, have you ever been snorkeling? Have you gone in the ocean for real? Like the energy of water in itself, like there's no connection. So I've just gotten to a point now where I know that there's actually life and energy in everything. And I choose to honor all those things, whatever it is, if it's water, my ancestors, the grass, like sitting in the grass or sitting under a tree and feeling the energy of it. And in the beginning, I think some stuff was still kind of like, I don't know, like, let me be careful and not go too far. And then after a while, I just really realized that like, I guess it was just like that whole demonic thing that they teach you about, like everything is like demons, anything that's not like Jehovah and all the spiritual stuff you learn about is demonized type of thing. Once I got that out of my mind, it was like more things came to me just like naturally, like what, how you should, like, I guess how your spirituality, how it really works, like how things really go. And, yeah, but yeah, I have no interest. I used to go to the Kingdom Hall when I would go back home as a way of like just making my mom happy. And I remember Byrd, like you were one of the people who were like, I remember you saying one time, like, that's not how I want to spend my time. And I was like, well, maybe it made me start thinking like, do I want to really just go here just because my mom is asking me? Because I don't want to spend my time like that. Like, I would hate it. Like, dang, I told her I was going to go. Now I have to go spend at least an hour of my time. Like, because I would go and I would only stay for like a half or something. And then I was like, after when I started going back home, I would just tell her like, no, I'm not going. Like, I'm not going to come. I'm not going to come do that. But now I have absolutely no interest in going to spend my time in a place like that. Because it also never really felt good. Like, it always just felt like heavy and like a place I wasn't really supposed to be anyway. So yeah, I don't give it my time anymore.
I used to entertain going to see like my dad's talk because he's an elder, and so he would like have visiting talks sometimes, or have to like travel to other congregations. And so I would go with him sometimes. But then I realized like it didn't feel good. And so I stopped. So I think one way, or I feel like one way that I practice my spirituality is asserting like my own spirituality and not feeling about it, like regardless of who that person is. And practicing like over the, I don't know, maybe the last 6 years, 7 years, I've had like different practices and different rituals. And I usually will learn something or read something and then I'll make it my own, because I can never just follow something as it is. And I used to judge that. And then like now I'm okay with it, because I do want to put my unique imprint on everything that I do and make sure that it feels, best to me. And so that's something I do. And then I also, because I've always liked the aspect of fellowship with the religion. And so I make that a real thing. Like I love communion, like vulnerable communion, like non-judgmental communion. So that's a big part of my practice too. And then I explore things without any shame, like, cause I'm really curious. I explore a lot of dark occult stuff. Like I'm into all of it, like all of it. And I don't feel any way about it, except just more curious. So I feel good about that. And then I have people who I've attracted into my life who I can commune with that about. So yeah, I feel like my spirituality is still practiced religiously. It's just one that I've like created for myself. So it's like, it's good.
I love that. And I love that you talked about fellowship, vulnerable fellowship, because I do see that's something that you like hold as a value. And I think it's so interesting that you're also talking about like it as a part of your spiritual practice. I love that so much. And I can also identify with you, Brittany, when you said just like being in nature and like having that direct connection, because that's when I feel most connected to God. I'm like, this is my spirituality, like being in the earth, being connected to the earth. And part of that has also been about learning about like my indigenous spirituality, learning about Igbo culture, learning about Igbo religion, and with Igbo people, there is a connection to the earth. There's like a direct connection to the earth. Like crimes were crimes against nature, and so, and like the gods and things like that were named after like the different elements. And so there is a very direct connection to the earth that I feel in my own practice. And I feel like I'm learning to do more of that as well, like learning to be more in tune with the earth. And that feels really good to me, like to be like, like it feels like I've never felt anything like that, I would say, inside any of the spaces for Jehovah's Witnesses, for sure. So well, yeah, I'll definitely bleep the names. I'll figure that out. And I'm still trying to figure out how, like I do want to share this as a podcast, but I'm also wondering like, should I share video as well? And so that's why I wanted to take it, just because I don't know. So if y'all have like ideas in terms of sharing, I'm open to hearing. I'm still very much like in the ideation phase. So yeah.
I would say do both, because some people may just want to listen and some people may want to like watch and listen,
Yeah.
I'm comfortable if you want to show it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thank y'all so much and have a great night. Rest well. I hope y'all feel a little bit lighter from this. I definitely do.
Thank you. It was fun too, talking about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll talk to y'all soon.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Peace out.